So you've got a business doing 1 million in EBITDA and you want to exit your business. In this video, I'll be explaining is exactly how you can exit your business and where you fit in the marketplace. So number one, congratulations. Very few people ever get to 1 million in EBITDA in their business. You're definitely in the top 1 to 1.5% of all businesses that exist in the UK and ultimately in the world. And that position of 1 million EBITDA affords you a few privileges in the exit marketplace that I will be explaining in this video. Now, one thing I want to highlight here is that getting to 1 million in EBITDA position is a very good position to be in. It puts you in the top 1 to 1.5% of all businesses that exist in the marketplace. However, when it comes down to the M&A marketplace and your buyer universe, it is still pretty small. You operate in something called the lower middle market. And what that means is that you haven't broken through into the true middle market where all the biggest players actually operate in, but you have broken into an area where there is some interest and activity in with regards to buying and selling businesses. So let me just frame it for you. Anything which is doing less than 1 million in EBITDA is considered small business. There is a special place, and I've made a video about this, of someone who's got a business which is doing between 500,000 and 1 million in EBITDA. That would be considered a small business. Anything below that would be a small business, and anything below sort of 250,000 would be considered EBITDA. I'm talking here, would be considered a micro business. So you definitely sit across 3 levels up. So you've moved past micro business, you've moved past small business, and you've entered into what you call the lower middle market. And you will have a lot of interest from those private equity groups that operate in the lower middle market. So that's the good news. Of course, the news which is not so welcome is that you haven't broken into bigger private equity markets in which there's a lot of money which is deployed. And what I mean by a lot of money is that they're still not paying huge premiums for a business of your size. However, they are still very interested in it. And depending on what kind of business you have, you could still attract a very, very good exit price. Now that I've mentioned price, you're probably wondering, right, what's the value of my business? And the thing is that it really depends on what industry you're operating in. If you're in B2B services, you're typically looking at anything from 3 to 5 times EBITDA. If you're in retail, that kind of, you've got a shop, or at that stage, you've probably got a series of shops or a chain of shops, and you're probably looking at anything from sort of 3 to 4.5 in EBITDA. So it really depends. If you're a SaaS, obviously, you're looking like 5 to 8 times EBITDA that you start looking into. So it really does depend which industry your business operates in. And that's why you do need to get a proper valuation from an M&A advisor. And if you do need a valuation, then click the link in the description. We can look at your business and see what kind of value your business is working with at the moment, and ultimately how you can increase that value for a bigger exit. But coming back to the question, so you really need to look at your 1 million, what industry you're operating in, and then doing a multiple of anything from, I would say a sensible multiple would be between 3 and 4. So really and truly, you can do that now because the math is really easy. Your business is worth anything from 3 to 4 million in EBITDA. Now, there are some caveats. It depends, because at 1 million in EBITDA, normally you're still quite involved in the business, right? You as the founder, you as the owner, or at least ownership, maybe not yourself, maybe you've got a business partner, one of you are always going to be involved in the business at this stage. That starts having a discount on valuation. So you really need to look at that. And that's how we work with business owners. We really look at all areas to see, like, how can we make this a attractive solution for a higher valuation. So take your calculation of 3 to 4 million in EBITDA with a pinch of salt. But regardless of whatever the case is that you need to start understanding who's operating in your marketplace from private equity. Now, the other thing is that you'll start also getting a lot of interest from competitors in your marketplace. So you will start looking at the players who are operating in your marketplace. And of course, you need to look at a bigger player, or at the very least, a player which is the similar size, the same size as yours. Very rarely will you have someone who's a smaller business than you who will be able to acquire your size of business. The only exception is that if they get PE backing, which is private equity backing, which falls back into that bucket of being private equity sort of sale that you're going to go into. So you need to map out your buyer universe. Now, M&A advisors do this every single day, so that's why we strongly recommend. At this stage, it is really worth paying the money and actually getting an M&A advisor, because they'll be able to help you so much in understanding where you sit and what your buyer universe looks like. So once you've got that list of potential buyers and who's in your buyer universe, the best thing that you can start doing right now is you can start building relationships if you haven't already got relationships with them. The good thing is that if you're going for people who are already operating in your marketplace, it's normally a lot easier for you to start building those relationships now and start nurturing like an understanding. Do they have appetite to buy a business? Now, you never say that you're selling. You never say that you're interested in ultimately, getting your business over to them. You need to keep things discreet and confidential. And there's a real art to this way of understanding who is able to buy your business, who's got the appetite to buy your business from your competitor landscape. Now, one of the things that you can also do, and normally you'll get the highest valuations from this type of buyer, is understanding who's got adjacent products and services, or who's got an adjacent market to yours. So if you're, for example, let's say you've got a marketing business, and in your marketing business, you do Google ads, right? So you focus on Google ads over everything else. And there's another business that focuses on TikTok ads, for argument's sake. Let's say they want to get into the Google ad space, and they've grown massively because obviously TikTok ads has been a huge growth area within the marketing space. So let's say they've grown rapidly and they've got to a certain size, and they're looking to expand and sell their customers because their customers are starting to ask them, right, can you do Google ads for me? Maybe they can do some of that, but they're not being able to get the results that they want for their clients. So you being the Google ads expert business, that would be an ideal person to go to and say, right, we offer Google ads. You want Google ads. Your clients want Google ads. Why don't you buy us? Now, you don't say it like that. Obviously, there's a particular methodology of doing it. You say, do you want to acquire us? They would normally pay you a lot more, because what they're thinking, they're like, oh, hold on a second. Currently, we're making, for example, 4,000, 5,000 per month per client. And if we acquire you and do Google ads, we're going to double our ticket size. So each client is going to go from being worth 5,000 a month to 10,000 a month just because I've acquired this customer. So just by acquiring your business, they can add an additional 5 million in revenue per month to their business because they acquired you. Now, what is that worth to them? Because that's worth more to them than it is to you, right? You can't do that currently. And by you presenting yourself as the solution for them and their product offering, you will be able to get a much higher price. Now, the reason why private equity is a very attractive solution to sell your business is because normally they have a platform business. Now, a platform business is a business which is of a certain size. Normally in private equity, platform business is anything from sort of 3 million to 6 million EBITDA. And what they're willing to do is that they're willing to buy smaller business. I say that tongue in cheek. Obviously, £1 million EBITDA business isn't a small business, but for them, where their current platform business is doing 5 to 6 million EBITDA, you are a smaller business. But they'll be looking to buy you and add you into their business and do what's called a add-on acquisition, right? So they bolt on your business into their current business. They've bolted you on as an acquisition, and they would be willing to pay, 4-5 times EBITDA for your business, because they know is that as soon as they add your business into their platform business, your business might be worth 4 or 5 times EBITDA to you, but to them, that business becomes worth 7 or 8 times EBITDA. Even though they've paid you 4 million as an exit price or a 5 million exit price, that business to them gets worth between 6, 7, 8 million just by adding it into their business. And that's why it's very attractive as a platform. That's why it's very attractive for a private equity that owns a platform business in your industry to add you as a bolt-on and an add-on acquisition. The other thing that you can do at 1 million EBITDA in business is, again, a private equity play, but it's slightly different. So if you're not looking to completely exit your business and you're a younger entrepreneur and you want to basically, you've got to a level and you can't get past that level. Let's say you've been plateaued at 1 million in EBITDA for some time now, and you haven't been able to break through to 1.5, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million EBITDA, then what you can do is that often, so private equity, but also other businesses, you can be like, right, I haven't been able to break through this amount. So what I'm willing to do is I'm willing to sell you a portion of my business, whether that's a minority stake or a majority stake, normally it's going to be a majority stake, you will then have a certain amount of equity that you retain, and you can actually work for that bigger company. Now, you need to be able to understand, do you have the emotional tolerance to work for someone else? Especially if you've owned the business for more than sort of 10 years, it becomes a little bit difficult to work for someone else. But as long as you're able to look past that and look at the bigger picture and look at where you can go, because don't forget, when you're working for these bigger players, you'll be able to learn things about business that you probably won't be being able to do up until this stage. So it's not just about you selling your business and taking 2-3 million off the table right now, but it's about taking 2-3 million off the table right now, getting a very good package from them for working for them, right? A salary, bonuses, all that stuff. And that's a separate thing that you have to negotiate. Again, your exit is one amount of money that you're going to get, but the package that you're going to get for working with them is going to be a separate package. And that can be very lucrative in itself, often matching the initial exit amount. Then the next thing is going to be is that when they sell the entire business, because they've grown it to a certain size, so you're on 1 million EBITDA right now, but let's say they grow your department, what's going to become a department of theirs, they grow your business from 1 million EBITDA to 5 million EBITDA, that business becomes a different valuation proposition. So the business goes from being worth 3 to 4 or 3 to 5 times EBITDA to a 5 to 8 times EBITDA. And then that business, your portion that you've left over, let's say, for example, you left over 2 million equity stake. Instead of your business, your 2 million being valued at 8 million, your 2 million will then be valued at like 18 million or 16 million, whatever it may be, okay? Depending on the valuation that they achieve on their side. So that's the other thing that you can do that can be quite lucrative if you're willing to sort of move along with the business and continue to work for the business as whatever capacity you agree that you want to work with, and have a secondary exit. A lot of business owners do that, especially in the UK. Probably the biggest or the best example that comes to my mind is that dragon, I forgot her name, Deborah Meaden, that's the one. Deborah Meaden had a holiday business, or a UK holiday business. I can't remember what it's called, but she initially sold the early amount. It was like in the tens of millions. So she sold that to a private equity group, but she retained some equity. And then they grew the business, and her second exit was a much higher exit. I can't remember exactly what the amount is. I'm sure you'll be able to Google it. But she was able to get a secondary exit, which was more than her first exit. So the total value that she got from her business for selling it twice as opposed to just selling it once was a lot more lucrative for her. So that's why sometimes rolling on equity to the right people, you don't want to do it for everyone, of course, to the right people can get you a much bigger payday, because you're not getting a payday once, but you're getting a payday twice. So what are some of the problems that you want to avoid when you're selling your 1 million EBITDA business? The first thing that you want to avoid is that you need to be able to prepare your business for sale. Don't just think that your business is ready for sale right now just because you've got 1 million EBITDA business. There are things that need to happen to be able to prepare your business to be sold to the right buyer for the right price. Not everyone's going to pay you whatever you want for your business straight away just because you think that your business is worth X amount. There's certain things that need to be done to make your business valuable. Again, we do this with our clients all the time. So click the link in the description. We help you exit plan to ensure that your business is prepared and primed to go for sale so you can actually get the valuation that you deserve. So preparation and ensure that you're exit planning in the right way to get the value is the first mistake that you want to avoid. Lack of preparation will just give you discounts on your business valuation. The second thing that you want to avoid when you're selling your 1 million EBITDA business is to ensure that you accept the right deal structure. Now, when you're at 1 million EBITDA business, normally there is going to be an element of an earnout or a deferred consideration. What that means is that you're not going to get 100% of the price, or not always going to get 100% of the price on day one. Ideally, that would be the best situation. But normally at this stage, at this size of 1 million EBITDA business, you're going to have to accept a certain amount of earnout or deferred consideration. And that means that you're going to be paid some money over time. Now, the wrong structure means is that you're deferring too much of that into the future, which means that you're only taking 30% upfront and the 70% you're waiting. You ideally want to flip that, to ensure that you're getting more upfront and you're only getting a small amount over a period of time. And the other mistake that you want to avoid with regards to deal structure is to ensure that you're getting paid. No one's really going to give you all of your money in 6 months. I've seen that a lot of business owners, they come to us and they say, right, I want to make sure that if I'm going to accept something like this, that I want all of my money in 6 months. It's just an unrealistic situation. It's not going to happen, right? Normally, you're waiting anything from 1 to 3 years, and that doesn't mean that you're going to get all of your money, in year one. It means that you get, some money in year one, some money in year two. You don't want to push it past 3 years. If you go past 3 years, then that might be too long, depending on your circumstances. I have seen one business owner actually pops to mind, where they were retiring. They're actually going to Europe to retire, and they said that actually they would prefer getting money over a longer period of time, because that's like a second retirement, like a second pension, right? That they're going to be getting. But most people are not like that. So make sure that you're not waiting too long for that deferred element. The third thing about deal structure is that don't pin too much on areas or targets that are not realistic. So one of the big problems actually is that people peg targets to profit, and it's very difficult to measure that, because there's a lot that the new owner can do that can manipulate the profit. So ideally, you want to tag your earnout to revenue, for argument's sake. If that's something, ideally, you don't want to have no targets at your deferred consideration, and that's the difference between earnout and deferred consideration. Earnout is normally it's pegged to some sort of target being hit, and deferred consideration, there's no target that needs to be hit. It's not pegged to anything. It's just you're going to get paid this much in year one, this much in year two, this much in year three. So that's the best situation that you want to be in. And also with regards to deal structure, it's like if you are deferring some consideration, then having some certainty about getting that money from the person who's bought your business. There is something in mergers and acquisition. The only money that you're going to receive is the money that you received on day one, and anything else that you receive later on, you need to forget about it. So, in fact, I was just watching a video from Daniel Priestley today. It's a very good video that he put out, is that you need to be able to be happy with the amount that you got on day one. And that's actually very, very true. That's what we talk to our clients about all the time, is that are you happy with the amount that you are receiving on the completion day? If you are happy, then that's great, because anything that you get later on is going to be a bonus. Now, the other thing that happens when you do have a structure that does have an amount paid up front and some amount paid over time is that normally you can get a higher valuation, because business buyers, private equity especially, for example, they will discount your price if you say to them, I want all of my money on day one, and I'm going to go away from the business, I'm going to exit the business completely, and that's it. It's like a clean break. So they give you a discount based on that. Whereas if you say, right, I'm willing to, accept this much on day one, I'll do some work with you, and I will be, I expect this much in return, that valuation is a different valuation. So in the first one, where you want a clean break and you want all of your money up front, that's where on your £1 million EBITDA, you might only achieve a 3 million exit price completely. But if you're willing to achieve a deal structure which is a little bit creative, and you're involved maybe in the business, you might be able to achieve the 5 million. So that's an extra 2 million just for achieving. You still get 3 million on day one, but because you're willing to help the business buyer, because you're willing to agree to a deferred consideration, you can normally stretch out a little bit more money for your price of your business. So avoiding the mistake of the wrong deal structure is a real concern that you need to be aware of. The third mistake that you want to avoid, and this is one that is kind of out of your control, you have to look at your market and time the market. So if, for example, you're in a position where your entire market has been shut down and interest rates are really, really high, which means that private equity or other people are looking to buy your business, that they can't raise capital, then you're obviously going to get a lower sales price. Why? Because interest rates are high, which means there's more risk which is attached, and your marketplace is being shut down for whatever reason. It's an example. Then that's a bad time to sell your business. You want to ensure that your marketplace has recovered, and maybe interest rates have come down a little bit, and that's when people have got access to capital and they've got a confidence in your industry. That's timing the market in your favor. Another point which I did mention in the other video, this is not going away from mistakes, it's kind of a side point, is that if you're selling your business to a competitor or someone who's not private equity, is that generally speaking, they're going to get money from investors or they're going to get money from lenders. So your business See, this is why preparation is so important. Your business needs to be presented in a way that any lender or investor can also see the value of your business. If your business is not prepared in the right way and the buyer can't demonstrate to a lender or an investor that this business makes sense on paper and the narrative, because it's not just a computer says no situation, it's the narrative as well. Your business needs to be presented in the way that shows that that lender is happy to give the money and that investor is happy to give the money. So that will give a lot more confidence in your business. Another thing that will give huge confidence in your business is that you've got a business plan that you've been working towards, and maybe you're in year 3 of a 5-year business plan, and the results are being seen in your finances. You need to be able to document that in the sales document. So there's something called the IM, which is an information memorandum. It's a document in which we produce, which when I say we, I mean we produce that for our clients. You can produce it for yourself. But it's a document which is produced, which shows all of the key areas of your business, the financial metrics, the organizational area of your business, the unique selling proposition or the unique brand positioning in the marketplace. And it also shows that you've got this 5-year business plan in place and you're currently in year 3 and there's still 2 years of that business plan to execute. And by private equity, the other bigger business, by investors, whoever's looking to buy your business, if they plug in their resources, they'll be able to supercharge the results that you've got in the final 2 years of your business plan. So if you're able to show that there's more meat left on the bone for them, then that's going to be a huge selling point for your business. Because a lot of business owners, what they do is that they sell the history of the business, but they don't sell the future. Now, this is a big mistake that business brokers do, is that they try and sell the future without having a concrete plan of the future. So it happens a lot. And this is when I'm on buy side. So buying for myself, because I obviously acquire businesses myself as well, right? So I go to a M&A advisor. They say, all right, we think that you can do this to improve the business. And I ask them the question, has a business owner done them? And they're like, no. So I said, why am I going to believe what you say? It's just complete hogwash what you've got in your sales documents, right? So you need to be able to demonstrate that you've been working on this business plan and it's been seeding the results, and there's actually still time left and runway on this business plan, and that by adding in these additional resources, these are the additional results that that business plan can get if, for example, another person was to buy the business. So really showing that your 1 million EBITDA business can turn into 2 million to 3 million to 5 million EBITDA by executing on this business plan with additional resources. Now, I'm sure you're probably getting a little bit more excited about your business. You're like, hold on a second, these are all of the possibilities that I can do with my business. But yeah, sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. It's perfectly fine if you want to take on investors and you want to take on debt to be able to grow your business to the next level. That's also fine. But if you're watching this video, you probably want to exit your business. Now, one other thing, this is really important. Selling a business is very rarely a purely financial decision. 90% of the time, it's a personal decision. You've come to this point that you want to sell your business because of a personal reason, not a financial one. So make sure that that reason that you have to sell your business stands the test of time and is not something which has just been born out of a thought in the moment. Maybe you're watching this video out of a thought in the moment, that's perfectly fine. But make sure the reasons to sell your business are the right reasons. And normally, for example, like especially if you've got business partners, you need to be on the same page on that front. Because sometimes your business partner will just buy from you, right? If you're the only partner that's burnt out or something like that, your business partner might just buy you out. But if you're both on the same plan, if you're all on the same sort of thinking that, right, we've come to this stage and we feel that we can't do this anymore. Or if you're the sole owner of the business, then you need to speak to the people who are important in your life and be like, right, if I sold this business, then why am I selling this business? Is it because we need to move on to a different juncture in our life? Is it because we're immigrating? Is it because I've got a health concern that I've come across and I need to focus on that? Whatever it may be, make sure it's the right decision, because normally selling a business is a personal decision more than a financial decision. You become concerned about the finances after the personal decision is the correct decision for you. So just make sure you've got the right reasons for selling your business, and then you can move on to the other considerations. One thing I want to highlight here as well is that when you're selling your business, you need to be able to see what your life looks like after you've sold your business. If you've got 1 million EBITDA business, normally the average time that a business owner in your position is on their business, now there are exceptions to the rule, is normally 10 years plus. So if you've owned your business for the last 15 years, that business has been a big part of your life. What is your life going to look like if you sell this business? What are you going to do with your days? What are you going to do with your time? What are you going to do with all of that energy that you're putting into the business? So that's why when I talk to business owners, it's really important that you understand what your life looks like after the business. And that's why for a lot of business owners, when they sell their business and they sell to private equity and they become part of that other team, they still got the energy to give, right? To continue to be part of that business, to continue to be part of that bigger picture. But if you are taking a complete clean break, and it isn't for like health concerns or immigration, because those two kind of like take on a life of its own. If it's a health concern, you're planning to get better. And if you're planning to immigrate, then of course you're going to another country and that's a whole new life. But if you're not doing those two things and you are going to stay in the country and you're perfectly fit and healthy, then what are you going to do? 9 times out of 10, by the way, when business owners sell their business, they just go and start another business. They take some time off, but they go and start another business. So that's a repeated pattern that we see with business owners, and that's perfectly fine because you're a serial entrepreneur. That just means, whatever the case may be, there's a lot of considerations that you need to think about or you need to go over when you are thinking of selling your 1 million EBITDA business. If you want to share those considerations, you want to have that discussion, click the link in the description and have a confidential conversation with us. We'll give you a valuation, how to increase it and what your business looks like or what your business exit looks like. If not, no problem, but do seek counsel and definitely continue watching videos on this channel where we talk about how business owners can exit their business, and I'll see you in the next video.